First of all, I would like to start and say thank you to Tal, who persuaded me to take part of this panel. I'm very, very happy to be part of this panel, which is, I think, a bit different than what you're going to hear later on today or already heard about the industry. I'm looking a little bit on a different angle, and I hope going forward 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that this panel will look completely different, and women will actually be more involved, more influenced, and so on. We almost had a women president in the United States. So I think this whole gender war is about to end and disappear from this world. But still, it's interesting to hear a little bit on a different angle from women, how they perceive this change, how they perceive themselves in such an environment. I know iGaming is a very manly environment. I'm sometimes part of it as well. But I think it's true for any industry in our world. But it's changing. It's changing. Facebook COO is a woman, and more companies. Yahoo CEO was a woman. So I think this whole gender differentials is about to disappear or already disappeared. And that's it. My first question is if you are looking at yourself and looking at the industry, do you think there is a reason for a minority of women, either as an entrepreneurs or senior positions? I know in my company, in low-level and mid-level management, there is a 50-50, or even it's biased towards women. But I think in high-level positions and maybe new companies, we see less women. Do you think there is a reason for that, or is just a statistical error?
Maybe I can take that. Actually, in our company, in WebPals, it's not working?
Sure, maybe.
I think it's
Yeah.
in WebPals, actually, we have over 50% women, and also in our management, meaning we are in total 8 people in the management team. 4 are actually women, including myself, the CEO, and the CFO. So, it's, I think, while it is common in general, I would say, in high tech and in every company that there is a majority of male in senior management, it's not necessarily like that everywhere. And actually, I think it's very much changing along the years. I can also say that I was, prior to my position in WebPals, I've been part of 888 for a very long period, and during my last couple of positions, being part of the B2C management, actually that was headed by a woman at the time, Adisa Ferteni, who is now CEO of Facebook Israel, and I have to say that the couple of men that were in management actually felt a bit threatened because we were all women. So I do believe this is something that is changing. I do believe this is something that obviously we need to encourage, and that's also something that's a cultural thing. But I can say that from my standpoint, it is a non-issue, and actually we are trying to hire more talented people to managerial position across the company.
Just like to add, I was also working within Ballet 888, and there are many women working for 888 in senior positions, and it was a few years ago and until today, and I think it's one of the best organizations to work at. I do think that this industry is maybe a bit aggressive, and maybe women can find it sometimes unpleasant to work in this industry. However, I don't think it's seriously different than other sectors in the market where we have more men than women. And in fact, I think that this industry really appreciates professionalism and delivery, well, quick delivery mostly. So in that aspect, we have open opportunities for men and women as well. And if you wish to be the best, then it's the best industry to work at. Like if you're good, then it doesn't really matter if you're a woman or a man. And yeah, that's it mainly.
I do think it's a regional thing, and I do think this country and Sweden and Malta to a certain extent are way more progressive when it comes to equal treatment of men and women. I don't see that across the board in Europe, and I definitely don't see that in the United States. You can't hear me? This one better? What I was saying is I think it's a regional thing. I think that Israel and Sweden are much more progressive in equal treatment towards women. I've noticed that in all the meetings that I go to. I also think that this industry, I do think it's a lot has to do with the product, but then you realize, you look at some of the gaming regulators. The UK had a female gaming regulator. Denmark has a female gaming regulator. There are a number of senior women in this industry, and a growing number. So I do think that it's changing. But I think here and Sweden are two of the more progressive areas that I've seen, and it's refreshing.
So, from my point of view, I work in ISBB, and it may be perceived as a more traditional company, but actually I am very proud to say that also in our company, in our organization, 4 out of 7 VPs are women. If it's VP of Online, VP of Marketing and Retail, our CFO, and VP of HR. In addition to that, there are more women managers in the organization. And it wasn't the case 5 years ago, but I think that if you look at the last 5 years, the organization made a huge progress, and we have improved it in all parameters. And I can only hold it to these very successful and talented women who do their work with a lot of passion and devotion. And I also think it's a non-issue. You need to be a professional, first of all.
Okay.
So I agree with the girls entirely. Karen and I were speaking about this last night, and I think all of the above, if you can do your job, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a girl or a guy. But traditionally, I think, from a university point of view, the STEM sector, which was science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, traditionally were more male-dominated than female. So our sectors are kind of tech-derived. I think that's changing, like massively. Even the statistics in universities like Harvard, etc., and basic universities, kind of on a regional level, and there's way more women taking up those degrees and postgraduates now, and it's going to take a little while to drill up through the chain to get to the board level, I think, too.
Okay, very, very interesting, and thank you, Melissa, for giving a compliment to Israel, which is hard to find these days. But going forward, actually, it's from the conversation. I have like a personal question. I didn't write it here. I wrote like many questions, but looking back at your careers, like you all have very impressive careers till now. Do you think during the years there was a change? Do you think that earlier stages of your career you had to prove yourself better than men in parallel positions to you, or you didn't feel at all intimidated by that, or you don't give it any thought anymore? It's something that only in this kind of panels we are talking about. What is your thought about this matter? Like how looking back a little bit, how does it look comparing to now? She has an answer.
I've never felt a gender issue ever, except when I worked for a woman.
I can say I definitely agree with Melissa. I think it has been a non-issue, and like the other women here said, during my career I felt that it was always about results and performance, and that was how my managers judged me, whether they were male or female. Actually, you know, when I took on one of the most challenging positions in my career, which was heading 888 Poker, very soon after I got pregnant, and you know, despite that, we managed to grow 60% year on year. So you know, I think it proves that it doesn't stop you, or you know, being a woman or a mother. If you know how to manage that and manage your career, then it shouldn't be you know, something that damages your career. So I think, you know, again, maybe it's a cultural thing, because I think definitely in Israel it is non-issue in the high-tech sector in general and games specifically. But I did not really encounter any kind of need to prove myself differently than others. It's just about results. You know, we are all about results, conversion, money, and you know, once you deliver that, I think that the sky's the limit.
Okay, I think a bit differently, but it changes. Like while I was starting with 888, it was 15 or 16 years ago, and I think the atmosphere was kind of different. Well, people will still measure it on performance, but I think the women there worked harder in order to prove themselves to be worthy to be on management positions. Well, not high management, but senior management or even low level, but they needed to work harder to get it. But I think the options were open for that. But as the years go along now today, I don't feel that the atmosphere is the same. I think there is a big change, and now people are not maybe if you hire staff or you need to promote someone, then you really take it into serious consideration. So today things are much, much better, and I think that in 2 to 3 years we will not be even talking about this stuff, we will be talking about other things.
I agree.
Thanks.
So also, I never felt anything to do with gender. I think it's all about being a professional. And I think people understand that diversity is good, and you want a balanced organization that have men and women and have people from different disciplines. This always contribute to the discussion, to new ideas, to thinking out of the box. And I think that we will all agree that sports betting and sports in general is a very male-dominated area. And the story that comes to mind for me is looking on a good example like Alona Barkat, which is the owner of Hapoel Be'er Sheva soccer team. And this is a male-dominated area, and she took a mediocre soccer team and made it a winning team who won the last championship title and is on the way to win the next title. And I think she brings to the plate a lot of passion, creativity, different perspective, and I think that makes all the difference. And the great thing is you can hardly hear anything from the locker room, which means this team is managed properly and she has good management skills. And I think that's what's important, and not if you're a man or a woman, but the ability to bring something else to the plate and a different perspective.
I agree. I think, as we were saying to the girls earlier, it's a confidence issue as opposed to a gender issue. It's how you deliver your product. You probably do need to be brave if you're a woman in this sector sometimes to take it on. We are a minority in some ways. Melissa and I were saying earlier, some of it can be aggressive depending on the product, but it's not a case of whether you're a woman or a man. It depends on your personality type and your character as well. So, board meetings are tough no matter what at different times, depending on who you're dealing with. So I don't just think it's just gender. It's about your personality type too.
My favorite story, my favorite gender story, was Katie Lever, who was the head of legal for Bally Scientific Games, and she was managing, and we're now coming down to a personality issue. She was managing something like 100 lawyers, and she was doing performance reviews at the end of the year, and a female walks in, one of her female employees walks in, probably her #1 employee, rock star, she killed it that year. She walks in, doing the performance review. The girl was apologetic about, oh, I could do this better. I promise, here are my goals for next year. I didn't reach these 4 goals, but I'll work harder. Guy walks in, who is slightly incompetent, walks in, what day am I getting my promotion? Like, it was just a different approach. And she was like, well, not only you're not getting a promotion, but you didn't even make any of your goals. So just a very different approach. It is a little bit about Sheryl Sandberg's leaning in.
I agree. Some of us here in the panel are managing people and companies. I know I I always look at at least, I don't know, once a quarter or maybe once half of year, look at the numbers and trying to keep the diversity on. Is it something we should continue doing? Like, should I, if I have two candidates and I need to decide whether to take a man or a woman into a team of men, should I still consider that, or should I still just look at results oriented? I think diversity is important. So there are, like, traditionally, at least in our company or in our field, that are more women oriented. If it's media and stuff like that, and affiliate, you see more men and less women. So I'm always like thinking, should I look at it from a gender point of view, or should I not? What do you think?
So I would say that in general, I do think that diversity is good. I see that, first off, I think different personalities definitely comprise a better team, both in management and in any other level in companies. But I wouldn't say that, that would be, or I would hire a woman rather than a man just because I want a woman, even though the man has a higher performance. I think, in general, I personally judge a person as a person. I would try to find, relevant candidates, and for instance, I just recently recruited a CEO to one of our daughter companies, and I was looking for candidates that will be women, but eventually, the end person for the job would be dependent on his abilities, personality, and in that sense, I wouldn't specifically have a bias towards women unless they're very talented, which women tend to be. So that does give them some kind of an advantage.
It was an interesting thing, actually. A successful gaming company, NetEnt, have an actual policy in place where it's not quota-based. They're not saying we must hire a certain amount of women, because I don't think quotas are good either. But it's a goal, where they're setting a goal because they realize that diversification will help them long-term. It will help change their perspectives. They'll reach new areas. They're 50% of their market, of their client base, are women as well, so it makes them think in a different way. It was super interesting to listen to them as to, it's not a quota, but it's a goal, and they aim towards a more diverse balance. I thought that was really interesting for such a successful company to apply on a formal basis. Yeah.
Okay, so we are approaching like the last few minutes of the panel. I would like just to conclude and say, I think my last question was, do you think there is a glass ceiling for a woman in our industry or in general? And I think it's not relevant anymore, because we see women going in all positions, from a candidate to the US presidency, to CEO of Facebook and Yahoo and other internet companies, and also not internet companies. And I think this whole gender issue, as I spoke to Karen yesterday, I really hope that our kids will not even know what we are talking about. Like, it will look so weird to them that there is difference between men and women. And the debate is still going on. Even here in Israel, there is a strong debate now about women going into military activity. So it's still on, but I think it will disappear in the coming years. If any one of you would like to say a summary for what we've said here, or has a message for other people here, I will be happy to hear. If not, then we're almost done.
Not to end it on a down note, but it's not like the issue's gone, right? I wake up half the time and I'm like, how the hell did that guy get that consulting job? And I didn't. And they knew a fraction of what I know. I wear the scars. I think we all wear the scars. So I don't want to downplay it like it's not there. It's just hope it's changing slowly. So.
Yes, I totally agree, and I want to add to that. And it's not like there are no differences between men and women, but I think it's blessed that we have these differences because we operate differently, and then if we work together, we can bring high results to companies. Like women are known to be more collaborative and to put the company's favor in first and to be very professional and into details. And men that I met are very, they have high vision and they have abilities a lot of times to lead companies to different places and to make people work for impossible missions. And there are more dreamers and more like into it, not all of them, but some of them that do the best work. So I do believe that a combination and a mix, as we said, is the best. And it's not that there's not an issue anymore, but I think we are progressing. And I can tell you a funny story. Once we were consulting to a very big binary option company, and mostly men were sitting in the management. And they were kind of debating for a month or so about approval rates issues and how to increase the approval rates and bring more deposits inside. And it was all very ego-driven, but once we got the feminine voice inside, like the people that used to actually manage the payments and manage the risk, and I came with my feminine touch, I don't know how to call it, and then we decided like to put everything inside and to bring a very professional discussion into the table. So a lot of times the gentleness and the understanding of women can actually solve stuff. So this is my vision for this industry.
I also think that it will be naive to say that it's not an issue. I think the fact that we're talking about it here just emphasizing the fact that men still see us as different. But I think, people are different, and that's a good thing. And I do think that we can bring something else to the plate and a different perspective. And for me, it's to come to work, do the best job that I can, to be as professional as possible. I think that makes a difference for women. And I do think we have several advantages. They say that men cannot do two things at once. And my mother said that my father even can't do one thing at once. So we don't have this issue with women. So I really think that, difference is good. And I hope that I hope next year it's not going to be an issue.
Thank you. Our time is up. At least 3 notes were there. That's it, I think. Where is the next panel? When? What? How?